Hello and welcome to a very special conversation that I'm having with Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri, Union Minister, senior member of the Cabinet, and a man who is best placed to answer some of the tough questions that we'll put forth, given that it's election season. Sir, thank you so much for taking out the time speaking to NDTV. So as we speak, there's probably one of the biggest political developments that have taken place, which is that Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has been granted bail, and this bail is till the election gets over. Your reaction to that, sir?
No, first of all, let me thank you for having me on your program. The Delhi Chief Minister's bail, let me underline, is an interim bail.
Yes, okay? It's an interim bail.
It's an interim bail. There are some things about the Delhi Chief Minister which I honestly fail to comprehend. You know, he is the subject of a serious investigation, okay? I think he's been charge sheeted also. Shouldn't he have resigned when he was embarking on the phase of state hospitality? Number one. Another colleague of his, who is also a chief minister of a state, and I'm talking about Mr. Hemant Soren, he resigned when he went in there. For some strange reason, Mr. Kejriwal has chosen not to resign. Now, the bail application is not, the previous one in the Delhi High Court was an application under section 19 of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. It was not a bail application where he was challenging the legality of this thing. And I remember the Judge Sahiba saying then, let's say we're not talking about the individual or the Chief Minister, because as Chief Minister he made a statement that he was not aware of the facts because Mr. Vijay Nair, who was the kingpin of the liquor scam, did not report to him. And he said that Mr. Vijay Nair used to report to Atishi and Saurabh Bharadwaj, number one. So he tried to distance himself. He said, but as the convener of the Aam Aadmi Party, you actively sought and received kickbacks. And those proceeds of crime found their way into the Goa election. So this one is an interim bail. All right, and I'm surprised how somebody who has such grave charges against him, what he is going to do during this period, because I believe he has to report back on 2nd June, from what I read about.
On 2nd of June he has to report back.
So this is the state, this is my reaction, which is what anybody's reaction would be.
But he has time to campaign, and given that Delhi, Punjab,
whatever this Apex Court has said, you know, I don't want to comment on that. Although one could, at a personal level, I'd say that there are certain implications which flow from this also, because there will be other people who are, you know, enjoying state hospitality, who will, and you know, elections take place in 5 years, something like 230 plus times. So every time somebody is to come, so these are implications. But I'm sure that the people who are more competent to understand and deal with these issues will, with the passage of time, deal with them.
But that's a very important point you made, sir, that it could set a precedent. That
it is a precedent.
That
anything I do or you do, you make sure it will be cited as a precedent.
Right.
So whatever be the intention in this case, but it has a very strong precedent-setting quality about it.
Also, the India Alliance is all, of course, coming out and saying how this is a win for the democracy and the entire democratic framework. They've come out and said that, not in different words. You have Mamata Banerjee saying it, you have Manish Tiwari, of course, the whole host.
Makes sense for them to do it. So there are very little else to gloat about. So for them to, instead of saying that this is a robust democracy with a judiciary which is totally independent and acting, instead of that, they suddenly give the credit to democracy. So.
And finally, sir, how much will this impact the Delhi elections, given that he is the Arvind Kejriwal is the convener of Aam Aadmi Party, and that, of course, could have implications for the Delhi duel when it is to happen?
Look, the Aam Aadmi Party was and failed to graduate from being what is called a political startup. A political startup is a novel experiment like any startup. And it gained currency at a time when the anti-corruption movement heralded by Anna Hazareji was at its peak. He joined that movement. He's an IIT graduate, joined the Indian Revenue Service income tax, and he came on that platform with a very high degree of idealism. Idealism being, I don't want to join politics. I'm never going to start a political party. I am against corruption. So you see the transformation in the man from 2013 Ramleela ground to 2024 Ramleela ground. हम उनसे हाथ ही नहीं मिले जिनके खिलाफ हम लड़ रहे थे, भ्रष्टाचार का आंदोलन जिनके खिलाफ चढ़ाए थे, हम उनके गले लग गए. I'm आम आदमी, I wear a muffler, I sit in the front seat of a wagon R car. When I became a minister, मेरी गाड़ी के ऊपर लाल बत्ती नहीं होगी. मैं वहाँ से करते करते शीश महल पहुँच गए. और the intriguing phenomena about this man is, हम शराब के खिलाफ हैं और सबसे बड़ा शराब का घोटाला कर दिया. शराब पीना, I don't want to get into subjective personal issues on it. Here the issue is something totally different. Here the issue is you allowed liquor vends to be established outside schools, outside mosques, gurudwaras and mandirs, and it led to one of the most rampant corruption scams on liquor. Today he is being questioned on that, and he has some answering to do. He tries to transform all of it. Why is he behind bars? He was given an opportunity on 8 occasions, but he was busy on each occasion. 9th occasion they said, all right, we'll take you into hospitality. So I think this is not the end of a story. Okay, this is the vindication of the functioning of a democratic process, because he now get into the more active phase. All right, he now has to, once he's charge sheeted, he'll have to answer those issues.
But the timing works for him, doesn't it? That he gets out at a time when he can campaign for Delhi and Punjab.
I would find it very difficult to subscribe to that, but in some ways also, if he is out there and he's testing the laboratory conditions on the ground, how does the timing work for him? I mean, there will be people in the crowd who will say, okay, what was your role? They have said this, they have said it's a very complicated game.
And how will the BJP counter Aam Aadmi Party's renewed campaign?
No, I don't think BJP needs to. I don't think BJP. Gaurie, I don't think BJP needs to do any countering, because his slogan was कि जेल का जवाब वोट से देंगे. अब तो जेल में हो नहीं आप. ऐसे आप वोट की बात करिए, आप बताइए आपका क्या रोल था. So it's a more focused canvas on him that we are dealing with.
Okay. Shifting focus now from Arvind Kejriwal to another very important comment that came from the Congress party. You know, one would say that maybe on issues related to national security there could be some consensus. Unfortunately, there isn't. How do you respond to Mani Shankar Iyer's remark? You know, maybe India needs to be wary. He may not have used the word wary, but he did say that we need to make sure that when we deal with Pakistan, we keep in mind that they have their nuclear arsenal as well. They have a bomb as well. How do you respond to those?
You know, Mr. Iyer was a senior colleague of mine in the Foreign Service. I think he was at least 10 years or more senior to me. But I never cease to be amazed by the kind of irresponsible statements he issues. And he's not the first. He was in the wilderness for a while. In 2014, he regaled us with his comments on Chaiwala, and it backfired. This one, Gaurie ji, I think is in the same genre. It's going to cost them very expensive. Issue is not whether you should talk or not talk. See what the other things he's saying. What has been the Congress party's one defining feature in their foreign and security policy? That they have not been able to deal with a country, with a state which uses terror as an instrument of state policy. देखिए, मेरे आपके रिश्ते जो भी हों, we may be neighbors, we may be estranged, we may be going through a phase of, distancing, cool, no talking. But that is a country which is on record and which the world knows uses terror as an instrument of state policy. Now, the Congress party under the leadership of Dr. Saab and in the 10 years between 2004 and 14 realized that. They realized that they were dealing with a state sponsor of terrorism, yet they decided to speak to them and continue discussion. Now, there was never an attempt to tell them that, okay, we will talk provided you abjure or you formally say that you are no longer in support of these groups. No, but what did Pakistan say? No, these are individual non-state actors. And you accepted that BS.
Right.
You accepted that BS. Then I happened to be present at a non-aligned summit which took place in an Egyptian resort called Sharm el-Sheikh, where Dr. Saab actually went a step further. The Pakistanis succeeded in putting us on the mat. You remember that furor that took place and the Congress party disowned him. So the Congress has a very poor track record when it comes to dealing with issues of terrorism. Now you fast forward from the Congress period of 2004 to 14, I'm not even going into the earlier period, and you come to the Modi period of 2014. One thing that was widely accepted when Mr. Modi became Prime Minister, drawing on his numerous statements prior to becoming Prime Minister, we said ki if they do this to us, we will give it back to them in kind. So it is one. I'm talking about all the cross-border terrorist actions and the attacks. We gave it back to them.
Yeah, the surgical strikes that happened. Yes.
Your concept of hot pursuit was there earlier also, but you were never able to formally define these things. But now we've gone a step further. Plus, you see with that the absolute normalization of situation in Jammu and Kashmir. You know, where the dominant industry used to be the Pathrao industry. Okay, now
it's made way for the tourism industry.
Now it's made way for the tourism industry. I used to be civil aviation minister, and I used to, with great pride, I used to say we are adding more flights to J&K. Now the number of flights is so many times more. They're chock-a-block full. You can't get hotel accommodation or houseboat accommodation for the love of money. Yes. That is the change which has come. And if you had allowed the likes of Shri Manishankar Iyer, and I shouldn't say this, another figure I respect, Mani is a senior colleague. I mean, I'm not going to...
so why would he go about making such statements?
He's just feeling frustrated and irrelevant. I think this is a question the Congress party has to ask. Then another of his, the young leaders' mentors is that gentleman who has just displayed that...
Sam Pitroda.
Sam Pitroda, he has a PhD in ethnicity. I mean, he's forgetting India is a 7,000-year-old civilization. I mean, even one of the three oldest civilizations, and he's jumped that and he's come to something else. But coming to Manishankar Iyer.
But do these reflect the underlying thought process of the Congress party?
Of course they do. Of course they do. And the point is, I think the Congress party is being embarrassed by them. I mean, on Sam Pitroda, I've seen statements from Jairam Ramesh. I mean, these are racist statements. They're deeply divisive. And they also mirror the half-baked thinking of the young leader himself. And now Manishankar Iyer has come and added to that. And why has Manishankar Iyer made this statement? I have a very simple explanation. The man is actually nuts. He's actually nuts. I mean, if you are loyal to the Congress party, and you know, he's written a book also saying that he went to school, but this happened, that happened. But he's causing harm to the Congress party. Why would you do that if you had even a modicum of loyalty to them? But he's trying to show that A, it has no understanding of India and Pakistan. B, his understanding of the nuclear deterrent. You must talk to them.
Yeah.
Even if you talk to, Are bhai, hamare policy of
not
and
they have their own
and they want to they want to continue with terrorism. You can't do that, but you must talk to them. I think this guy is living in cuckoo land.
Here is a country which is finding it tough to feed its people. Here is a country which doesn't have enough milk to give to its people, and that country is being talked up by Manishankar Iyer.
Madam, I would...
And we should be wary of them.
You are brilliant.
They have
Let me just say, these were two children born from the womb of the same mother in 1947. One of them is that country you are defining. I would only add a country which has to put off their lights at 8 o'clock in the evening because they don't have the energy to supply that. No milk. They didn't have money to print notes also, I'm told, somewhere I read. And they got all kinds of problems. And the other is a country born at the same time, is the 5th largest economy in the world, going to be the 3rd largest economy, has landed somebody on the South Pole, okay, is talking about unmanned moon missions. Yeah. And here's the other country which is collapsing and it's in free fall. So Manishankar Iyer thinks it his duty to talk up that other country. I think these are the utterances of an entirely somebody who's frustrated and who's seeking some relevance.
You know, speaking of the fact that on one end you're talking about unmanned lunar missions, you're talking about 5G, 6G, but the opposition is talking about proportional representation. Opposition is talking about reservation.
It's a little worse than that.
Yeah.
It's a little worse than that.
Opposition
They have been talking about all the wrong things. Mallikarjun Kharge, I saw a piece, I don't know whether it's correct or not. He said Panditji ensured that the poor will become poorer and the rich will become richer.
Yeah.
This is the Congress president, yeah, admitting it. Look, I am all for some form of socialistic justice. I talk about climate justice. So if very poor people are there, maybe the overall society. But to say in a country where the per capita income is still only $2,400, to talk about retributive redistribution, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? It is your duty to raise the standard of living, which is what the Prime Minister is doing through 800 million people getting 3 meals of dry ration in a day. 11-12 crore Shauchalaya, 4 crore of Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, building another 3 crore. Water tap connection in every household. 80% of the new gas connections are in rural areas. 10 crore, 28 lakhs Ujjwala connection. I mean, you can go on the list. And this guy is talking about caste census. By the way, on this caste census, I recall in 2011, these guys actually produced a study. They didn't know what to do with it. And in 2013, they gave up. And you know what kind of thing? Talking about, they are saying that we want to end reservation. PM has made it clear. Mohan Bhagwat ji has made it clear. No, it's these guys. They want to give the benefits of that reservation to a particular minority community. So now they have egg on their face because they find that minorities under persecution. Arey yaar, minorities kahan under persecution? Muslim population has gone up by 43%. Sikh population has gone up, by the way, by 6%.
I was in fact going to ask you this question.
No, it's going. But look, minorities never had it so good. I'm not saying everything is perfect. That's never been my case. But for anyone to suggest that either there is no democracy in India or there is no minorities are not safe is BS.
No, I'm asking you that what according to you is the issues on which this election is being fought on?
It's being fought on good governance. Good governance.
Then why does or how is it that we resort or come back to the Hindu-Muslim debate very shortly?
You come back because these guys started it. You see, if you're doing the political game, if you're playing the political game and it's cricket and you got a bat in your hand, somebody throws a half full toss or something that looks like a full toss, you have a straight batter. What will you do? You will hit it out of the ground. So I mean, you must write a letter of thanks to them. Kabhi Kharge ji ho jata hai shuru, kabhi Petroda shuru ho jata hai, and now Manishankar Iyer is occupying the screen. So they are doing it. You make mistake. Look, in political processes, we are not Mahatma Gandhi. If we get an opportunity like this, we will give it back. But the point is yours. You set the pace. If you had not played the fool, and now I believe somebody has been arrested and tried to doctor the Honorable Home Minister's video clip, this would never have happened. That is my point. So why it comes to that is because you set the narrative there. We were very happy with it.
The charge is also that the economic report that also came out by the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council also came out in the middle of the election. And it also talks about the Hindu and the Muslim population. By the way, as a minority, what do you feel about the fact that...
No, my population has gone up by 6%.
Yes. So how is it that the conversation is one-sided?
It's not one-sided. It's precisely the point I'm trying to make. Because the narrative that, you see, the point is I'm a student of the false narrative. So you were being fed a false narrative here. Ki bhai minorities are in danger. Arey, kahan minorities are in danger, yaar? What are we discussing? I can talk about my minority, I can talk about the Jains, I can talk about the Parsis. Economically, they're doing well. Muslims also, let me just tell you, if you take it out of the hands of those who are rabid and creating a false narrative, there's more opportunity now than ever before. And the state of Jammu and Kashmir is a case in point. Today, you look at what is happening to our kids there. Look at the economic opportunities they're getting. I did a summit of one of my housing ministry, urban ministries, I think it was Credai or Naretco, one of their summit meetings there. And look at the investment which is coming into real estate there. But aapne, because of 370, you kept it in splendid isolation. Today, because we've been able to deal with that, we today have a situation, you can bring in investment from anywhere, economic opportunities there. Is that what you want? Or you want your policy, Pakistan se baat karo, J&K ko splendid isolation mein rakho? Whose interest was this serving? Other than a handful of people in Jammu and Kashmir, and a misplaced loyalty that the Nehru-Gandhi family had.
Finally, sir, I want to ask you this, that you mentioned about wealth redistribution and redistributive tax earlier. As the housing minister, the fact is right to property is not a fundamental right in India. And if the government of the day wants, changes can be made. Would you want that it should be made a fundamental right?
So I'll tell you something. Let us be very clear on what has been happening in the country. There is a chapter on fundamental rights and there's a chapter on directive principles of state policy. The courts, in conjunction with active support from the government, have tried to move these things. So I think right to housing now is you have a right to a house. And the government in action is trying to produce that. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is a case in point. Through a bouquet of 4 verticals, everyone can have a home now. No matter how economically
yes, you can have a home, but the property, I'm saying the property rights is not a fundamental.
You'll have to deal with that. You'll have to deal with that in a very different way, because you want to legislate, you see, because either you look at it, the constitution as it is, but you are allowed, nobody's taking any of your property away. It's as good as life, liberty. But where do you want to put it? Because you have to make it justiciable then.
Yes.
To make it justiciable. So right to a house is almost there. It's totally there, I think. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and other thing. So you have to transition a society with developmental challenges to become the 3rd largest economy in the world and to being a Viksit Bharat by 2047.
All right. On that note, we wrap this conversation, sir. Thank you so much for taking
Thank
out
you
the
very
time
much, and I enjoyed talking to you, and we shall continue the conversation.
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah.